The first punch did not land on a face, it landed on a glass table. Crash! The thick table in Chief Kelvin Adderwell's mansion cracked under the force of a furious hand. A bowl of fruit rolled across the marble floor. A framed photo of Kelvin in his white agbada slipped from the wall and fell with a dull thud. And there, right under Kelvin's smiling portrait, his family began to fight like strangers. "Don't you dare touch that folder," Kachi Adewale shouted, his voice sharp like a knife. His sister Zara stood in front of the lawyer's file as if her life depended on it. "It is my father's will. You don't get to grab it like you own the whole world." "You mean like you're doing now?" Kachi snapped back. "Since when did you become the true child that knows everything?" Their mother, Mrs. Doyen Adewale, sat on the long cream sofa with a black veil still on her head. But her eyes were not wet anymore. Her face was calm, too calm. She lifted her chin and said coldly, "Both of you should stop this foolish drama. Your father is gone. What matters now is control." In the corner, two uncles argued in loud whispers. "His money is family money." "No, it is his children's." Another aunt held her chest dramatically, crying, "Kelvin promised me the Ikoyi duplex. He promised." The lawyer, Mr. Bamidele, kept adjusting his glasses with shaking hands. His assistants tried to calm the room. Outside, journalists waited behind the tall black gate, hungry for news. Inside, the mansion smelled like expensive perfume and hidden hatred. But the most shocking part was not the shouting, it was the hidden camera above the chandelier, quiet, blinking softly. And somewhere far from that mansion, in a private medical facility with white walls and silent security guards, Chief Kelvin Adewale was watching everything live on a large screen. He was supposed to be dead. Nigeria believed he was dead. Lagos had mourned him. The newspapers had called him a legend gone too soon. But Kelvin was lying on a hospital bed in a dim room, breathing slowly, his eyes open. A thin medical cap covered his hair. A small device rested behind his ear so he could hear every word spoken in his home. Beside him stood one man he still trusted, Dr. Femi Ajala, his private doctor. Kelvin's mouth was dry, his heart was heavy, not because of sickness, but because of what he was seeing. Zara's hand shot out and grabbed Kachi's shirt. "Say it again. Say I'm not a true child again." Kachi pushed her hand away, hard. "Move, you think you can block me?" "Dad is gone, Zara. This is not your school debate club." Zara's eyes flashed with anger. She raised her hand. Slap! The sound was loud, clean and sharp. Everyone froze. The room went silent for one full second. Even the uncle who was shouting stopped and blinked. Then all the noise exploded again at once. "You slapped me?" Kachi roared, stepping forward like a storm. "Stop it!" someone screamed. "Hold him!" another voice shouted. Mrs. Doyen finally stood up, her voice rising like a judge in court. "Enough! Both of you will ruin everything." Kachi pointed at his mother, breathing hard. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? You're enjoying us fighting." Mrs. Doyen's face did not change. She only said something that made Kelvin's stomach twist. "Of course I am not enjoying it," she replied calmly. "But if you want your share, then fight for it. The weak don't eat." On Kelvin's screen, his own wife looked like a stranger wearing his wife's face. Kelvin swallowed hard. His eyes burned, but no tears came. Dr. Femi leaned closer. "Chief, should we stop this test? You've seen enough." Kelvin did not answer immediately, because at that same moment, the mansion door opened again, and a man rushed in, holding a brown envelope. It was Kunle, Kelvin's longtime personal assistant. The same man who had worked with him for 15 years. The same man who knew Kelvin's schedule better than anyone. Kunle looked frightened, but he forced himself to walk into the chaos. "Excuse me," Kunle shouted. "Please, everyone should calm down. Sir Kelvin, Chief Kelvin, would never want this." For a second, Kelvin's heart lifted. Maybe Kunle would remind them of love. Maybe he would bring peace, but Mrs. Doyen turned slowly and stared at Kunle like he was dirt. "Who allowed you to speak?" she asked. Kunle's voice shook. "Ma, I'm only saying—" Mrs. Doyen cut him off. "You are staff. Stay in your place." Kunle lowered his gaze, but still tried. "Ma, there are documents here from the bank. Sir Kelvin asked me to keep them safe. They are not for fighting. They are for—" Kachi stepped forward and grabbed the envelope. "Give me that." Kunle held it tight. "No, sir. Chief said—" Kachi seen red. He yanked the envelope hard. The papers inside flew out like angry birds. Aunties and uncles rushed to pick them. The lawyer shouted, "Those are legal documents, please." Zara bent quickly and grabbed one page, her eyes scanning it fast. Her face changed. "What is this?" she whispered. Then she lifted the paper up and screamed, "There is another name here. This document lists a beneficiary I have never heard of." The room froze again. Kelvin's eyes widened on the screen. A name was printed clearly at the bottom of the page, a name that did not belong to his wife, or his children, or his loud uncles. Zara's voice trembled as she read it out loud. Maya Benson. Everyone stared at each other. Kachi's mouth fell open. Who is Maya Benson? Mrs. Doyen's eyes flickered for the first time, just for a second. But Kelvin saw it, and that small flicker was enough to send a cold fear through his body, because Kelvin knew that name. And he had buried that secret deep, so deep he believed it could never rise again. In the facility, Kelvin tried to sit up. Dr. Femi held his shoulder. Chief, relax. Your heart rate. But Kelvin pushed his hand away, staring at the screen like he was seeing fire. Back in the mansion, Uncle Tundi laughed in a sharp, ugly way. Maya Benson, he said. Ah, so it is true. Mrs. Doyen's head snapped toward him. What did you just say? Uncle Tunda leaned forward, enjoying the moment. I said it is true. Kelvin had another child. A scream tore through the room. What? Zara's face went white. Kachi turned slowly toward his mother. Mummy, is that true? Mrs. Doyen opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the front gate alarm suddenly beeped loudly outside. Beep, beep, beep. One of the security men ran in. Ma, we have an issue. Someone is trying to force entry. They say they are from the medical facility. They have papers. Kelvin's blood went cold. From his bed, he heard Dr. Femi whisper, frightened, Chief, someone is coming here. Someone is trying to confirm you're really dead. Kelvin stared at the screen, then at the door of his facility room. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying. This test was no longer just about greed. Now it was about survival. Because if the wrong person found him alive, they would not be happy. They would be desperate, and desperate people could do anything. Kelvin's eyes narrowed. On the screen, Mrs. Doyen's phone was already in her hand. And she was smiling. Not a sad smile, not a shocked smile, a smile like someone whose plan was finally working. Then she spoke softly, almost like she was talking to herself. Good. Let them come. Kelvin's breath caught in his throat. The smile on Mrs. Doyen Adewale's face was small, but it was dangerous. It was the kind of smile that did not need laughter. Outside the mansion, the security alarm continued to scream. Red lights flashed against the tall black gates, painting the compound in fear and confusion. Inside the living room, everyone stood frozen, their eyes moving between Mrs. Doyen, the scattered documents on the floor, and the guards rushing back and forth. Kachi broke the silence first. Mummy, he said slowly, why are you smiling? Mrs. Doyen turned to him, calm and composed, like a woman watching a movie she already knew the ending of. Because, she replied softly, this family has been living in lies for too long. Zara's heart pounded. She clutched the paper with the strange name printed on it, Maya Benson. Her fingers trembled. Another child, Zara whispered. Daddy had another child? Uncle Tunda stepped forward, his voice filled with poison. Ah, Zara, don't pretend to be shocked. Your father was a powerful man. Powerful men have secrets. Zara snapped at him. Shut up. The lawyer, Mr. Bamadel, raised both hands. Please, everyone, calm down. We are not even supposed to be discussing inheritance yet. There are legal procedures. Mrs. Doyen cut him off with a sharp look. Spare us the law lecture, Mr. Lawyer. My husband is dead. We must act fast before outsiders take advantage. Kelvin watched from the screen, his chest rising and falling. Dead, she kept saying. Each time she said it, the word hit him harder. In the private medical facility, Dr. Femi paced the room nervously. Chief, he whispered, this is getting out of hand. Someone has sent people to the mansion, and someone is also trying to confirm your status here. If word leaks... Kelvin lifted a weak hand. Wait. His voice was low but firm. I need to see how far they will go, Kelvin said, especially her. Dr. Femi hesitated. Your wife? Kelvin did not answer. He turned back to the screen. At the mansion gate, the guards finally opened the smaller security door. 2 men in dark suits stepped in, holding brown folders with official stamps. Behind them was a woman in her early 30s, slim, quiet, with tired eyes. She wore a simple blue dress and flat shoes. She looked out of place among the luxury and shouting. Zara noticed her first. Who is that? Zara asked. The woman stopped walking when she saw the crowd inside. Her eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing. One of the men cleared his throat. Good afternoon. We are representatives from St. Gregory's private medical facility. Kelvin's heartbeat quickened. Mrs. Doyen walked forward confidently. Yes? What do you want? The man opened his folder. We received instructions from the late Chief Kelvin Adewale's office to release certain documents only after confirmation of death. There appears to be confusion. Kachi scoffed. Confusion? My father was buried 3 days ago. The man nodded. Yes, but there were inconsistencies in the medical records. We were asked to verify matters with the family. Mrs. Doyen folded her arms. And why did you bring her? She pointed sharply at the quiet woman in blue. The second man shifted uncomfortably. Ma, this is Maya Benson. The room exploded. Zara screamed. What? Kachi stepped back like he had been slapped. That's her? Uncle Tunde laughed loudly. Ah, so the ghost has finally appeared? Maya flinched at the sound. Her hands trembled, but she forced herself to speak. I didn't come for trouble, she said softly. I was told Chief Kelvin was my father. Every word felt like a hammer. Kelvin closed his eyes for a moment. Maya, he had not seen her in years. She had been young then, small, always quiet. Now she stood in his home, surrounded by people who hated her without knowing her. Zara walked closer, her voice sharp. You expect us to believe you? You just appear from nowhere when my father dies. Maya shook her head quickly. No. I didn't know he was dead until 2 days ago. Someone contacted me. They said I should come. Mrs. Doyen's eyes narrowed. Who contacted you? She asked. Maya hesitated. I don't know the name. It was a woman. Kelvin's heart skipped. A woman. Mrs. Doyen turned slowly, pretending to be shocked. That is interesting. Kachi stared at his mother. Mummy, you know something. Mrs. Doyen sighed dramatically. Your father had many mistakes. I tried to protect this family. I tried to keep things together. Kelvin felt anger rise in his chest. Protect or control? The lawyer stepped forward again. This changes everything. If Maya Benson is truly a biological child of the late Chief Kelvin Adewale, she has legal rights. Over my dead body, Zara shouted, Maya's eyes filled with tears. I don't want his money. I only want the truth. The room went quiet. For a brief moment, Kelvin felt a small sense of pride. But it did not last. Mrs. Doyen laughed, a short, cold laugh. The truth, she said. The truth is expensive, my dear, and nothing is free in this house. She turned to the guards. Remove her. Maya's head snapped up. What? Kachi looked confused. Mummy? Mrs. Doyen's voice hardened. She is an intruder. Take her outside. The guards hesitated. Uncle Tunde clapped his hands. Good, before she poisons everything. Maya backed away slowly. Please, I just want to speak to who? Zara snapped. A dead man? That word again. Kelvin slammed his fist weakly on the hospital bed. No, he whispered. Enough. But his voice could not reach them. The guards moved closer to Maya. Suddenly, Kunli stepped forward. Stop, he said firmly. Everyone turned to him. Kunli stood tall, his hands shaking but his eyes steady. Sir Kelvin would never want this. I know him. He cared about truth. Let her stay. Mrs. Doyen stared at Kunli like she was seeing him for the first time. You? She said. You dare challenge me? Kunli nodded. Yes, Ma, I dare. Kelvin's chest tightened. Good man, he thought. Mrs. Doyen walked closer to Kunle, lowering her voice. Be careful. Loyal dogs can be put down. Kunle did not move. The tension was thick. Then one of the medical men spoke again, his voice shaking. There is something else, he said. The facility has ordered a final confirmation. If Chief Kelvin Adewale is truly dead, we will release everything. Mrs. Doyen smiled again. Then let us confirm, she said calmly. Because I am very sure. My husband is gone. Kelvin stared at the screen. Her confidence scared him. Because she did not sound like someone guessing. She sounded like someone who knew. Dr. Femi leaned close and whispered urgently, Chief, they are sending a team here. If they enter this room... Kelvin took a deep breath. On the screen, Mrs. Doyen picked up her phone and made a call. Her voice was low, sweet, and deadly. Yes, she said. Proceed. Kelvin's heart raced. Proceed with what? The door to his private room suddenly made a soft click and began to open. The door opened wider, slowly, carefully, as if the person outside was afraid of what they might find. Chief Kelvin Adewale lay on the bed in the private medical facility, his eyes fixed on the moving door. The room was dim, lit only by a small lamp beside the bed. A heart monitor beeped softly, steady and calm, too calm for a man who was supposed to be dead. Dr. Femi stepped in front of Kelvin like a shield. His hands shook, but he spread his arms. Stop right there, Dr. Femi warned. 2 men in dark suits entered first. They looked official, clean haircuts, hard faces, and cold eyes that did not show respect. Behind them was a woman wearing a neat nurse uniform, holding a clipboard. And behind all of them was a man Kelvin recognized immediately. Not because he loved him, because he once feared him. Barrister Akin Badejo, Kelvin's family lawyer for many years. The same lawyer who had helped Kelvin protect his business empire from enemies. The same lawyer who knew about Kelvin's secret accounts, hidden properties, and private documents. Kelvin's throat went dry. Why is Akin here? Barrister Akin took 2 slow steps into the room, his eyes moving from Dr. Femi to the bed. His lips formed a polite smile, but his eyes stayed sharp. Doctor, he said calmly, please don't make this difficult. Dr. Femi's voice trembled. This room is restricted. Barrister Akin lifted his folder. We have legal permission to confirm the late Chief Kelvin Adderwale's status. Kelvin felt anger rise. Late? Late? Barrister Akin looked toward the bed again. His eyes narrowed, the smile faded, because Kelvin's eyes were open. Kelvin stared straight back at him, and in that second, the room felt like it lost all its air. The nurse gasped quietly. One of the men in suits shifted his feet, uncomfortable. Barrister Akin's mouth opened slightly. Then he recovered quickly, like a man trained to hide surprise. Well, he said softly, this is unexpected. Dr. Femi spoke fast. Chief Kelvin is alive. This is a private medical plan. Barrister Akin raised a hand. Doctor, please, save the speech. Kelvin's voice came out low but strong. Who sent you? Barrister Akin hesitated for the first time. That hesitation was an answer. Kelvin's eyes narrowed. My wife. Barrister Akin sighed, then nodded slowly as if there was no point lying. Yes, he admitted. Madame Doyen sent me. Kelvin's chest tightened. Even though he suspected it, hearing it out loud felt like someone poured cold water on his heart. Barrister Akin stepped closer, careful, like he was approaching a lion that might still bite. Chief, he said gently, your family is in chaos. Your children are fighting. There is a strange girl claiming to be your daughter. The board is confused. The banks are afraid. Kelvin's lips curled bitterly. So my wife wanted you to confirm I'm dead. Or alive. Barrister Akin's eyes did not blink. She wanted clarity. Kelvin laughed once, short, dry, without joy. No, she wanted control. Barrister Akin did not deny it. The 2 men in suits stood behind him, quiet like shadows. Dr. Femi's hands balled into fists. Leave. Now. Barrister Akin looked at Dr. Femi. Doctor, please understand. If the public discovers Chief Kelvin is alive, it will cause scandal. But if Madame Doyen discovers... Kelvin cut him off sharply. She already suspects. Barrister Akin's eyes flickered again. Kelvin pushed himself up slightly, fighting the pain in his body. Tell her nothing. Walk out and tell her you saw a corpse. Do you understand me? The room went silent. Barrister Akin stared at Kelvin as if Kelvin had lost his mind. Chief, he said carefully, that is impossible. I have seen you. These men have seen you. Kelvin's voice became ice. Then you will keep your mouth shut because you still work for me. One of the men in suits shifted again, his hand brushing his jacket pocket. Kelvin noticed, and Kelvin understood. These were not just men in suits. They were men ready to do something terrible if needed. Dr. Femi noticed too. His voice rose. Don't even think about it. Barrister Akin held up both hands. Nobody is here to hurt anyone. Kelvin stared at him. Are you sure? Barrister Akin didn't answer fast enough. Kelvin's heart hammered, because Kelvin suddenly realized something much worse than betrayal. This was not just greed in the mansion. This was a plan, and his wife was not acting alone. Kelvin grabbed the small remote beside him and pressed a button. The room's corner camera light blinked. You're being recorded, Kelvin said. The nurse's face turned pale. Barrister Akin's jaw tightened. Chief, Kelvin raised a hand. Don't worry. I record everything now. It's how dead men stay safe. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Barrister Akin made a choice. He stepped back. All right, he said. I will leave. But Chief, Madame Doyen will not stop. She believes something is being hidden from her. And she is angry. Kelvin's eyes burned. Let her be angry. Barrister Akin turned to the men. We are leaving. The men hesitated. One of them leaned close and whispered something into Barrister Akin's ear. Barrister Akin's eyes widened slightly. Then he looked back at Kelvin, his voice lower. Chief, he said, there is already a second team heading to this facility, not for confirmation, for BD finality. Dr. Femi's face drained of color. What do you mean? Barrister Akin swallowed. I mean someone has ordered that there should be no chance of you returning. Kelvin felt his blood go cold, because he understood exactly what that meant. They want me truly dead. Barrister Akin turned quickly and walked out with his group, leaving Dr. Femi and Kelvin in the room. The door shut, and the lock clicked again. Dr. Femi rushed to Kelvin's side, panic all over his face. "Chief, we must move you," he whispered urgently. "Now, if another team is coming." Kelvin's eyes flashed with anger and pain. "Move me where?" Kelvin asked. "If they can enter here, they can find me anywhere." Dr. Femi grabbed his phone. "I'll call the security head, the one you trust." Kelvin's mind raced. Back at the mansion, the fight was still happening. Kelvin's screen showed Zara crying now, her pride cracking as she argued with Kachi. It showed Maya standing near the wall, quiet, scared, surrounded by hate. It showed Kunli trying to keep order while being threatened. And it showed Mrs. Doyen sitting like a queen on Kelvin's sofa, phone pressed to her ear, eyes shining with control. Kelvin could not hear her call, but he could see her lips move. And he could read the danger in her face. Then Kelvin's earpiece buzzed. Kunle's voice came through, strained and shaking. "Chief, if you can hear me, something is wrong. Madam just told the guards to prepare your office safe. She said the real will is there." Kelvin's eyes widened. The safe. That safe held things no one should touch yet. It held the truth about Maya's mother. It held the evidence of stolen funds from a few years ago. Money Kelvin suspected his own brother had taken. It held a sealed letter Kelvin wrote for his children, to be opened only if he truly died. If Mrs. Doyen reached that safe first, she could rewrite Kelvin's legacy. She could destroy anyone she wanted. Kelvin gripped the bedsheet tight. "Femi," he said, voice urgent now, "we are not just running anymore." Dr. Femi stared. "Chief?" Kelvin's face hardened. "We fight smarter," Kelvin said. "I need to speak to Kunle. I need him to remove that letter before she touches it." Dr. Femi nodded quickly and began tapping on his phone, trying to connect. But before he could, the power in the room flickered. Once. Twice. Then the lights went out completely. The heart monitor beeped faster for a second, then switched to backup power, dim and red. Dr. Femi froze. No, this shouldn't happen. Kelvin's breath caught, because only one thing could cause a blackout in a private facility like this. Someone had cut the power on purpose. From the hallway, footsteps rushed closer, fast, heavy. More than one person. Dr. Femi whispered, "Chief, hide your face." Kelvin tried to move, but his body was weak. The door handle rattled violently. A voice outside said in a low tone, "Open it." Another voice replied, "It's locked." Then a third voice, calm and cold, spoke words that made Kelvin's blood freeze. "Break it. We came to finish this." The door shook again. Bang! Dust fell from the top frame. Dr. Femi grabbed a chair and pushed it against the door, his hands shaking so badly the metal legs scraped loudly on the floor. "Chief," he whispered, voice breaking, "they are serious." Kelvin's heart beat hard in his chest, not from fear alone, but from anger. This was no longer a test of love, this was a fight for his life. "Listen to me," Kelvin said, forcing his voice to stay calm. "The panel behind the bed, open it." Dr. Femi blinked. "What? Now?" Another Udar hit the door. Bang! Dr. Femi rushed to the wall behind Kelvin's bed and pulled open a narrow panel. Inside was a small passage, dark, tight, and hidden behind medical equipment. "My emergency exit," Kelvin said. "I built it years ago. Dead men plan ahead." Dr. Femi helped Kelvin sit up. Pain shot through Kelvin's body, but he clenched his teeth and said nothing. The door cracked. Wood splintered. A hand pushed through the gap. "Move," Kelvin ordered. Dr. Femi slid Kelvin carefully into the narrow passage and pulled the panel shut just as the door burst open. 3 men rushed into the room. Dark clothes, gloves, no badges, not medical staff, not police. One of them scanned the room fast. "Where is he?" Dr. Femi stood in front of the bed, trying to look brave. "You are too late. He passed." The man laughed. "Nice try." He moved forward and yanked the bedsheet away. The bed was empty. For the first time, panic flashed across his face. "Search!" he shouted. They tore the room apart. Drawers slammed. Equipment crashed. One of them grabbed Dr. Femi by the collar. "Where did you hide him?" Dr. Femi shook his head. "I don't know." The man raised his hand to strike, but suddenly, alarm screamed through the hallway. We owe! Red lights flashed. One of the men cursed. "Security!" They ran. Seconds later, heavy footsteps filled the corridor, trusted guards this time. Dr. Femi collapsed to the floor, breathing hard. Behind the wall, Kelvin listened to everything. His hands shook, but his mind was clear. "Doyen," he thought, "you crossed the line." At the mansion, the fight had turned ugly. Zara stood near the stairs, crying openly now. "I don't care about the money anymore. I just want this madness to stop." Kachi laughed bitterly. "Now you want peace, after you slapped me?" Uncle Tunda waved a paper in the air. "Look at this. Another account. Who was stealing from Kelvin all these years?" Maya stood quietly near the wall, tears rolling down her cheeks. Kunli stood beside her like a shield. Mrs. Doyen walked calmly toward the office door. The safe was inside. Kunle stepped in front of her. "Ma, please. Sir Kelvin's instructions." Mrs. Doyen's hand moved fast. Slap! Kunle staggered back, stunned. Everyone froze. Mrs. Doyen's voice was sharp and cold. "You forget yourself too easily." She opened the office door. Inside, the room smelled of books, leather, and power. Kelvin's chair sat empty behind the big desk. Mrs. Doyen walked straight to the painting on the wall and pressed the hidden button behind it. The safe slid open. Zara gasped. "Mummy, stop." Mrs. Doyen ignored her. She reached inside and pulled out a thick brown envelope. Kelvin's sealed letter. Kunli lunged forward. "No." Two guards blocked him. Mrs. Doyen smiled as she broke the seal. She scanned the letter quickly. Her smile faded. "What?" Uncle Tunda asked. "What does it say?" Mrs. Doyen's hands trembled. "It says," she whispered, "that the control of the entire empire does not go to me." The room went silent. "It goes to a trust," she continued, voice rising, "managed by Kunle and—" Her eyes snapped to Maya. "And Maya Benson." Zara's mouth fell open. Kachi spun around. "What?" Maya shook her head in shock. "I didn't know, I swear." Mrs. Doyen's face twisted with rage. "So that is it," she hissed, "after everything I did for him." She ripped another page from the envelope. "And this," she read aloud, "is evidence of stolen funds, traced to—" Her eyes widened. She stopped reading. Slowly, she looked up at Uncle Tunda. He stepped back. "Doyen, let's talk." "You stole from my husband," she said quietly. Uncle Tunda laughed nervously. "It was business." Mrs. Doyen's hands shook as she dropped the letter. "This letter was never meant to be opened by me," she whispered. Zara stared at her mother. "Then why did you want Daddy dead so badly?" The question hit like thunder. Everyone turned. Mrs. Doyen's lips parted, but no words came out. Kunle's voice was steady. "Because if Sir Kelvin came back alive, the truth would come out." Mrs. Doyen screamed, "Enough!" She grabbed her phone and dialed fast. Kelvin's hidden screen flickered. He saw it all. He saw her face twisted with fear and rage. He heard her say the words that broke something deep inside him. It didn't work. He escaped. Finish it another way. Kelvin closed his eyes. The woman he loved was now trying to erase him. Back in the hidden passage, Kelvin leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Dr. Femi whispered into his phone, calling trusted security. Kelvin's earpiece buzzed again. Kunli's voice came through, urgent and low. "Chief." She opened the letter. Kelvin swallowed. "And?" "She knows about Maya. She knows about the trust. She's panicking." Kelvin's jaw tightened. "Good," he said softly. "Then it is time." Dr. Femi looked at him. "Time for what?" Kelvin straightened slowly, pain and fire in his eyes. "Time for the dead man to walk," Kelvin said. At that exact moment, the mansion lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the main gate alarm screamed again, this time louder than before. A guard shouted from outside, "Ma, someone is at the gate." Mrs. Doyen turned sharply. "Who?" The guard swallowed. They say Chief Kelvin Adderwell is alive." Mrs. Doyen's phone slipped from her hand. Her face drained of color, because the voice coming through the loudspeaker was calm, familiar, and very much alive. "Open the gate," Kelvin's voice echoed through the compound. "I'm home." The gate did not open immediately. For 5 long seconds, the entire mansion stood frozen, as if time itself was afraid to move. Mrs. Doyen Adderwell stared at the gate like she was seeing a ghost step out of the grave. Her lips trembled, her chest rose and fell too fast. Around her, everyone stood silent. Zara, Kachi, the uncles, the aunts, the guards, the lawyer. Even the house itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the loudspeaker spoke again. "Open the gate," the voice repeated. Calm, strong, familiar. "Before I open it myself." The head guard rushed forward and pressed the control button with shaking hands. The tall black gate slid open slowly. A black SUV rolled into the compound and stopped right in front of the mansion. The door opened. A man stepped out. Alive. Very much alive. Chief Kelvin Adderwell stood tall in a simple dark outfit, supported slightly by Dr. Femi on one side and 2 trusted security men on the other. His face was thinner, his hair touched with more grey, but his eyes were sharp. Clear. Awake, the same eyes that had built an empire, the same eyes that were now filled with pain, disappointment, and quiet fire. A scream tore through the compound. "Daddy!" Zara ran forward, tears pouring down her face. She stopped halfway, unsure, like she was afraid he might disappear if she touched him. Kelvin opened his arms. Zara crashed into his chest, sobbing. "Daddy, you're alive. I thought—" Kelvin closed his eyes and held her. I know, he said softly. I saw everything. Kachi stepped forward slowly, his face pale. Dad, is this real? Kelvin looked at his son, really looked at him. Yes, Kelvin said, and we need to talk. Behind them, Mrs. Doyen stood frozen. Her world had just collapsed. She forced a smile that did not reach her eyes and stepped forward. Kelvin, thank God. Thank God you're alive. Kelvin turned to her. The silence that followed was heavy. So, Kelvin said quietly, this is how you mourned me. Mrs. Doyen's smile cracked. Kelvin, please, you don't understand. I understand everything, Kelvin interrupted. He raised his hand slightly. The large screen in the living room came on. Footage began to play. Their voices filled the room, shouting, fighting. Threats, slaps, greed. Mrs. Doyen ordering Maya to be removed. Mrs. Doyen opening the safe. Mrs. Doyen making the phone call. It didn't work. Finish it another way. The room went deadly silent. Mrs. Doyen's knees weakened. Kelvin's voice was calm, but every word landed like thunder. I pretended to die because I wanted to see love without my money in the room, Kelvin said. What I found was hunger, hatred, and betrayal. He turned to the uncles. Those of you who forged documents, you will answer to the law. They dropped their heads. He turned to the lawyers. Those who circled like vultures, you are dismissed. Then he turned to his children. Kachi, he said, I saw your anger, your pride, your impatience. Zara, I saw your fear, and your courage when it mattered. Both children stood silently, ashamed. Then Kelvin turned to Maya. She stood near the wall, small, scared, and unsure if she belonged. Kelvin walked toward her slowly. Maya Benson, he said gently. Maya's voice shook. Sir, I didn't come for money. Kelvin nodded. I know. That is why you will never lack. Tears rolled down Maya's face. I failed you once, Kelvin continued. I hid you to protect my name. That was my mistake. He turned back to the room. This is my daughter. Gasps filled the air, and she will be protected. Kelvin then faced Kunle. You, Kelvin said, placing a hand on his shoulder, you stood when it was dangerous. You chose truth over comfort. Kunle bowed his head, eyes wet. I only did my duty, sir. Kelvin smiled faintly. Loyalty like that builds empires. Finally, Kelvin turned back to Mrs. Doyen. She fell to her knees. Kelvin, please, she cried. I was afraid of losing everything. Kelvin looked down at the woman he once loved. You didn't fear losing me, Kelvin said quietly. You feared losing control. Mrs. Doyen reached for his leg. I am your wife. Kelvin stepped back. No, he said, you are someone who tried to finish what death did not. The police sirens echoed outside the gate. Kelvin nodded toward them. Take her, he said calmly. Mrs. Doyen screamed as officers lifted her up. Kelvin, I stood by you when you had nothing. Kelvin's voice did not shake. And I stood by you when I had everything, he replied. But power showed me who you truly are. She was led away. The mansion fell silent again. But this time it was a clean silence. Kelvin turned back to his family. My death was a lie, he said, but the lessons are real. He looked at everyone in the room. Wealth can buy houses, cars, and silence, but it cannot buy character. Kelvin walked toward the stairs, then stopped. This family will heal, he said, but not through money, through truth. He looked back one last time. And remember this, he added. The man you thought was dead was watching. Kelvin Adderwell walked up the stairs, alive, awake, and forever changed. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.